And I think we're seeing a big shift into how do creators build communities, whereas like the traditional stars were, they were celebrities, right?
Yeah.
They didn't build a community. It's just like they're on your favorite TV show, they're on your favorite film, they're untouchable, and you kind of have this like idolization to them.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing a flip. It's like creators are spending the time to build communities around their content, themselves, and I think that's where the power lies when it comes to the future of building.
Hi, Rabble.
Hey, Alice.
We're doing this in person.
Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing. So we are in Dubai at the 1 billion follower summit. We've been here for 3 days. And how has it been?
You know, Dubai is a little bit surreal, and at this conference where there are thousands and thousands of creators and wannabe creators and industry people talking about social media in such a different way than I normally talk about it, because it comes from the perspective of the people making the content and the people viewing it and using it. And there's all these stars like Mr. Beast with his entourage.
Yes. And also all the people that are now wanting to get in on the economy that is the creator economy. And Goldman Sachs put out a report last year estimating 67 million people identifying as creators worldwide now, and that will grow 10% every year to 2030, to 107 million people. So there's a lot of investors here. There's a lot of agents here. Like, it's a business now.
Yeah, it became a massive industry. It's very surreal.
Right. And so monetization comes up everywhere. All the challenges that we talk about often in our world at Divine around, the problems with like follower counts not meaning anything, algorithms changing without due attention and notice to the creators. So there's a lot being discussed here. What kind of is standing out for you?
The biggest one that stands out is that the follower counts don't mean anything anymore, because it's about the reach of the actual content you're creating. And so much of that is about understanding the way in which these people are able to create with the algorithm. And then the other part of it that has really blown me away as I think about the economy of social media, the economy of the internet, is that the creators aren't, for the most part, making money off of the advertising on these platforms.
Right.
The advertising revenue is all going to the platform creators, with the exception of YouTube long form content. Everybody else is having to find a way to run their businesses and make money that is outside of the platforms. And so you have this antagonistic relationship, which is super fascinating.
Right. And difficult.
Yes.
And so they make a lot of money through either brand deals or through merchandise or through subscriptions. And, as we are building Divine, we're trying to figure out what
Patreon
the right models are.
Or OnlyFans, depending on the person and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Or merchandise, or they're musicians and it's ticket sales. There's all these different ways in which people are making money. But the ads you're seeing on these things, they don't go to the creators that you want to see.
Right. So one of the people we met here was Jacques Kieser, who is the director of programming for VidCon. And VidCon is the first event that came up, I don't know exactly how many years ago, but certainly over a decade, to bring creators together in the early days with their fans. And there's a lot of talk about how VidCon has changed over the years and how 2018 was seen as this halcyon year where it was really what the pure intent was in those days. And funnily enough, I was at that VidCon with my son, who was on stage representing teens and what teens wanted to watch. And so it was really interesting to have Jack to kind of track a little bit of like how that the content has shifted and the connections have shifted over time. What did you find most interesting about chatting with him?
The reason I wanted to talk to him was he has been curating the space by which creators, people who have now this career, are figuring out how do they make money, how is their audience. And we spent a lot of time talking about the difference between a community of fans and a community convener versus an audience that is consuming your content.
Right. It's not just the broadcast out model anymore.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a listen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. This is Jacques, the program director at VidCon. VidCon is the primary conference around video creators, social media creators. It's been around for a really long time, so I'm really excited to have you on the podcast.
Super awesome to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
This was a bit of a spontaneous thing of we had the studio space booked, and we were talking to each other, and I'm like, you know what? This is the kind of conversation that I wanted to share with people. You know, the reason I started the Revolution.Social podcast was in some ways because I was having conversations that were really interesting and I wanted to share them, and I wanted people to understand, how did the internet get to where it is today? How did social media get to where it is today? And your experience, having been at VidCon for quite a while now, is really interesting. So I wonder if you could talk about VidCon, where it comes from, what it is today, and how you got involved with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, you know, VidCon as an event, we'll be celebrating our 15th year this year in 26. So it's kind of a big inflection point, milestone for us. We are the largest gathering of digital culture. So the thing that I guess that makes our event unique is that we really bring the whole ecosystem together. Everyone from the fans, the creators, the industry professionals that are, you know, building in this space, and the brands as well. So it's kind of like a unique experience coming to the event where it's like you see it in real life, all of the creator economy kind of coming together, and just seeing how they interact and intermingle. It is quite an experience. And like you touched on, you know, the industry has changed, digital culture's changed, how even I think fans engage with creators has changed. Certainly over my 7.5 years of being at VidCon and kind of seeing it in real life, how that has changed has been very interesting.
Because it started out as not an industry. It started out as people figuring out how to post right online, and then, you know, and then do podcasts and then post videos online. And the original idea was just to get people together so that they could talk to their audience, that they can meet each other and they can meet fans. And over time, it has become an industry.
Oh, absolutely. And again, that's the root of VidCon. That's how it started, was two creators, Hank and John Green, one of the, you know, two of the OG creators in this space. Just exactly that, started VidCon to bring the community together. It started in a hotel lobby and was just a really kind of organic way for fans and creators to meet. It was the first time that creators actually had an opportunity to get away from their cameras and actually see this world of you know, the fans that have been watching their videos in real life. And then obviously over time it has grown, and now it's at the Anaheim Convention Center and 55,000, you know, people that come to that event. So it's kind of certainly developed from year one all the way through. And again, how those creators have, you know, it's turned into a business now ultimately, where right at the start it wasn't a business. It was just a way for them to meet their fans. There was no money being made or generated. It was very much more of an organic way of doing things.
You know, one of the things that I saw in early Twitter was this idea that, like, now I am seeing the messages and the ideas of what's people's going on, where I can feel like I am part of someone's life. And originally it wasn't for other people, it was for people you knew.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, okay, how can I now have this relationship with them and know what's going on in their lives? And that developed into this whole world of parasocial relationships. Mm-hmm. And so VidCon is in some ways this evolution of the parasocial relationship made real and in person, where they can connect. And then through that, we've got an industry that grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the really interesting thing, again, when you know, go to events like VidCon, is you can actually see in real life where the economy is kind of going. Because each year, you know, not just from the fan side and the creator side, but also from the industry side, it's, you know, each year there is definitely kind of a big topic of conversation that kind of comes out organically with industry executives of where they're seeing the industry going. And you kind of see it at places like VidCon, where it's like, what are those conversations? So you're almost plotting the development in real time when you come to the event, when you come to other events similar, you know, within this space. And that's been really interesting actually as well, just to see how things change, not just, you know, from the interaction side, but actually what are people really interested in? You know, obviously the big thing on everyone's lips at the moment is AI. Everywhere you go, everyone's talking about AI, but I still don't think, you know, within AI specifically, it's like where is it going to go? I think everyone knows it's here to stay, but it's really now having those opposing ideas of, what's good, what's bad, what's everything in between. Because I don't necessarily think it's one or the other. I think there's very much a middle ground of how AI is going to really affect the creator economy.
I mean, the thing that surprised me with the announcement of Divine, my video app to bring back Divines, was just how powerful and visceral people's feelings about AI-generated content was. There was lots of discussion about privacy and personal data and the algorithms and moderation and platform and all these other things that have been major issues, or what is commercialization, how do ads, how do people support themselves? But the level and depth of people's feelings about AI is much stronger. So I'm curious, you as putting together the conference, it's going to happen in 6 months. How do you structure that debate? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, and again, I think really where that comes from, in my opinion, is with the internet, there is no filter. Anyone can say what they want, and I also think a lot of the time it's strong opinions are favored, good or bad. So what you're kind of getting when you open up your social media platform is very strong opinions for and against. And you're not getting a real kind of middle ground of where is it actually, when the dust settles, where are we actually going to be? And I think it's the kind of like gamification of social media, right? If something works, people kind of double down on it and go in more extremes until you're right at either side of the spectrum. And I think that's what's happening with AI, where it's, for us, and certainly my kind of focus for VidCon is really having a rounded conversation of where AI is. And again, there are so many different ways AI is being used in this economy, not just in the creator economy, but in the economy in general. And it's like
everywhere now. And people there's some of it we see, the like 5-fingered, six-fingered hand and these other videos, or, fake videos produced about stuff. But we don't realize is that it is completely transformed the entire stack. It's 100%. Everywhere.
Yeah. And again, it almost feels like you're not a real business unless you're integrating AI into something that you're doing. And again, for us, it's really making sure we're having those conversations at VidCon, where it's for and against, really rounded views of like, where is this actually going to be in 5, 10, 15 years time? How is it going to shape the economy? How is it going to shape the creator ecosystem? How are people going to use it to create better content? How is it going to, be integrated into creators becoming entrepreneurs and building businesses? Because we're starting to see a lot of that shift of creators now actually going, hey, I've been a creator for 10, 15 years. What's my exit plan? What does that look like? How am I going to transition into being an entrepreneur? And I think that's where AI is really exciting. I think that's where opportunities are going to be built. This whole almost scaremongering of AI is going to take over the world, is going to take over everyone's jobs. Personally, I see it as not true. If anything, I think real life skills is going to become more valuable. I think IRL events are going to become more popular, more valuable, because the more that AI plays into the world, the more everything becomes convenient and automated. Actually, me and you just sitting here chatting, that becomes less and less. So when things become less and less, it becomes more valuable. And I think that's where we are heading now. It's like the reverse, where I think people are now going to start to kind of rebel against social media and digital culture, in the sense of like, actually, let's turn my phone off. Let's go and interact. Let's go to events like this, where it's like you can talk to people, you can connect with people, you can do business with people and build actual relationships. And again, I come from a biased view, but I think that, to me, I'm like, IRL, real life experiences, that's where relationships are built. And the more events like, VidCon, obviously, and 1 Billion Follower Summit that kind of happen, I think that's a great thing as we start to kind of go into the future and look at how tech is going to change our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the in-person stuff. I like social media is about people. It's about connection. It's about humans. And it was about democratizing the ability to speak and connect. And yet we see all of these sort of AI-generated content that is now quite good and getting better, so that every kind of professional video shot can be done. Every scene, every actors, every person, every movement can be done perfectly in terms of the visual stuff, because we're getting very close to that. But what feels so weird about it is it's like there's an emptiness to it. And I am wondering, as I've been here at the Billion Followers Summit, is that a nature of AI and the way we're doing it, where we haven't yet figured out how to imbue the humanity and the storytelling and the person to it? Or is it inherent? Like, have we just not figured out how to use the medium? You know, when radio was introduced, people would open it up and they would just read the newspaper. Mm-hmm. And when television was introduced, they would just shine a camera at the radio announcers or put a camera single shot recording of a play.
Yeah.
You know, every single time, when the telephone was introduced, they didn't quite know what they were going to use it for. So people would call into these party lines and someone would hold a concert on the other end of the phone and people would listen to the concert. Like, every time we introduce a new medium, we don't understand how it works. And if we think of AI as not a death of the medium, but this new one, then why does it feel so uncanny valley? And is it just a matter of learning the storytelling in the medium? Or is there you're following all this stuff, You're talking to all these creators. Yeah. Where are we at with that?
I honestly think it's a bit of both, right? I think AI is very new in the big scheme of things. We are still very early on. And actually, if we look at how good AI is, especially when it comes to creating content, it blows my mind at how advanced we are already in such an early stage. So I do think there is an element of like, it is only going to get better from now on in.
And it's getting better really, really fast.
Really fast. And you kind of touched on it earlier when we were just chatting, where it's like, it becomes harder. My job becomes harder because things change so quickly. What we program now, 6 months before VidCon, might not even be a talking point 6 months down the line because we're moving so quickly. It's like, how do you stay on top of everything? And, I think it's a mix of that human interactivity. I don't think AI is ever going to be able to replicate human interactivity. And I think, again, going back to the earlier point, it's like, that's what makes interactivity and human connection so much more valuable and so much more important as we start to go into this kind of AI first world, digital first world. And again, the other thing is that was super interesting. It's like, these kids now growing up, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, they have a smartphone in their hand from the age of 5, if not earlier. It's like, they are growing up in a world where looking at your phone, looking at YouTube on TV, that is the medium they are interacting with every single day from the age of 5. So,
and it's been a long time. There's this reality, which is like, we now have generations of people who have grown up where the real stars are these social media stars. Mm-hmm. Like, they're only vaguely aware of the Hollywood machine.
Yeah, and it was interesting even here. It's like, Will Smith, who's traditional Hollywood star, like, he's one of the few that has the same reaction. It's like, you don't get the Will Smiths anymore.
Yeah.
They are the digital stars now. And it's when you come to these events and you see it in real life, VidCon, you have the creators walking around, but it's a different relationship that they have with their audience, where it's like, fans feel like they are a part of their friendship group, their community. And I think we're seeing a big shift into how do creators build communities, where it's like the traditional stars where they were celebrities, right?
Yeah.
They didn't build a community. It's just like, they're on your favorite TV show, they're on your favorite film, they're untouchable, and you kind of have this like idolization to them.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing a flip. It's like, creators are spending the time to build communities around their content, themselves. And I think that's where the power lies when it comes to the future of building.
So much of the promise of Web 2.0, this sort of movement that ended up becoming now what we call social media, was the idea of community building, was the idea of connection, was the idea that you would cultivate a community. And one of the things that's fascinating is with the shift that happened quite a while ago to algorithms. And now we hear at this Billion Follower Summit, which is very funnily named because if you talk to any of these creators, they're like, your follower count doesn't matter because most of the people who follow you aren't seeing your content. It's about how are you playing the algorithm and getting stuff done. So the question is if the algorithm is defining how you reach that audience, and we have this idea of like, what does your algorithm say? You show someone your For You page or your Instagram Explore page. What does it say about you? Mm-hmm. So how do we build community in a world where we have these black box algorithms that decide how we're connecting to people?
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting question, firstly, because I think we are now going into this like hybrid world, and it kind of goes back to, I think there's like almost like a rebellion to digital now, where I think this, like Gen Alpha especially, because they're growing up online, there's a massive digital fatigue that is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard, where these kids are just going to be like, actually put my phone away, let's do things that are in real life. And I think we're going to see a big shift in creators, especially kind of Gen Z, Gen Alpha creators that are building online, are going to start to shift by looking at how can they build communities in real life, where it's like they're using digital to amplify it, but actually the shared experience is you're with your peers who love this creator, or you're really interested in this one thing that your creator that you are following is super interested in. For example, like Book Talk. It's like, I'm a Book Talk creator, I love books. Let's do a shared community meetup where it's like everyone that loves these kind of books, let's all get together. I'll plug in as the creator, and they have this shared engagement. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, of like, how can creators plug into events like VidCon, where it's like building out these amazing experiences that you can't get on YouTube, that you can't get on TikTok, that it's like you had to have been there in real life to experience that gathering, that community. So it's really interesting. I think we are going to start to see more of a shift of that.
Yeah, I mean, and there was an era in which we had meetups, every kind of possible meetup that you could have. And there was this idea that it was all grassroots and everything else, but it didn't quite give people the ability to what they would do at the meetup. Now, when we look at how people are using social media, the thing they're using most are chat groups. Yeah. They're using Discord, they're using WhatsApp groups and Signal groups and all these group chats and these ways in which they're sharing it. And so there is the social media that's the public visible part. And then there's the one that they're interacting with their friends and their community, and they're separate. It's really fascinating what is visible versus invisible.
Oh, 100%. And again, it's you brought up Discord. It's like I'm seeing platforms like Discord now are becoming more and more popular exactly for that. It's because it almost is as close as you're going to get to real life without it being real life, which again contradicts what I've been saying, where I think real life is important. But I do think as well that like constant communication with your friends where you can connect is becoming, we are living in a lonely world now with social media. Everything is online. People are only posting their best online as well. So that's all that people kind of see. So I think these like kind of conversational apps that are coming out really fosters community building. And I think the creators that are doing that well and building community first are the ones that are kind of really the ones we're starting to see pop up and really grow. And especially kind of looking more at like niche. I think we are getting into a place now where niche creators are growing. They don't have the like on the surface level, going back to what you were saying, it's not the follower count that's important. I think the niche creators are really building community and fostering that community within their specific niches.
Yeah.
That I'm starting to see, especially, is becoming a lot more valuable as we head first into this digital age of AI taking over everything.
It's fascinating. There was someone on stage who said that 1,000 super fans is much more valuable than 1 million followers.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you're bringing all these people to VidCon. How are they cultivating that 1,000 super fans instead of the 1 million followers?
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? I think there is a big kind of change now. What we are seeing that creators are not afraid to kind of meet their fans in real life. We kind of saw in 2018 in VidCon speak, it was like the Beatlemania phase of the creator economy, right? Yeah. Where it was like, if you were a creator and you went front of house, it was like thousands of kids around you screaming, more kind of Hollywood traditional type interactions with their fans. We are now seeing a big shift. And I think it's because of that. It's like there is a lot more niches. There's a lot more creators out there for people to enjoy and follow. So at VidCon, for example, these creators are walking front of house where fans can kind of interact with them. And it's not that hysteria anymore. It's, as I like to say, I think like Gen Alpha, Gen Z are a lot cooler now with how they interact because they're ultimately growing up with these kids and everyone has a social media following now. So I think if you're a fan or not, you kind of see everyone as we are all creators in some kind of way. So there's a lot of that happening, a lot more interactivity with how we're doing content. So creators now are actually wanting to do more creative stuff. For example, if you're an animator creator, they are now wanting to do like live drawing on stage. So it's really bringing the audience into that when they're talking and taking them through how the characters kind of came to life and actually doing it in real life in front of them, like drawing characters. And so we're really looking at how we can bring that connection into all our programming through not just the fans, but the creators and the industry, and bring them into the conversation rather than having it as, a one-way street of being spoken to. Actually, how do we bring them into that conversation? How do we bring them into that interactivity? How can we connect creators with their fans in a way that isn't, just a meet and greet? We do meet and greets, but it's actually how do we do it in a way that's super fun, that's super engaging, that brings their fans closer to the creator, and again fosters that community growth.
Yeah, one of the things I think was really fascinating is like I've talked to so many people who say that to understand a space and understand something's going on, you now follow the money, figure out where the money is, and in the creator space, we now have things like we have Patreon and we have GoFundMe raising campaigns and we have Substack for people posting stuff and OnlyFans, like the big one, and these are places in which the creator is directly getting some sort of payment from the audience. Mm-hmm. And, one of the fascinating things I'm curious your thoughts are is when I look at that, I came to realize is that they're not paying for the content. Like when someone does a tip on Twitch, you're not getting something special content. You're not buying something there. What you're doing is financializing a way of showing your engagement, showing your membership in a community that you are a member of this tribe.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is the brands, which I think most people who are not in the industry don't realize the just massive extent at which brands have shifted what they're doing and how the money works into this digital space.
Oh, 100%. And I think first you absolutely nailed it with, platforms like Patreon that are doing a great job. And it's your fans aren't investing it to exactly like you said. They're not investing for the content. They're investing into you. They're investing into the tribe and that community. And it is, and it's like you were saying, it's like whatever's popular, that's where the money kind of goes. And that's what we're seeing with brands, especially coming into the space. And it's been a really funny kind of development over the last few years where it's like, not that long ago, two years ago, the conversation was, brands doing one-off deals with creators. Yep. Now the conversation very much is, how do brands partner with creators to build long-term campaigns? Because again, I think fans aren't dumb. They know when it's a sponsored ad. They know when a brand is paying to work with a creator and vice versa. It's like they know that. They can sniff that out. So it's actually the brands that are doing it really well are partnering organically with creators that love their brand, integrate their brand into their content on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And it's more long-term so that fans can really look at that and go, oh, okay, this isn't just a one-off thing. The creator is actually bought into this, loves this product. And we're seeing a lot more success when brands actually partner rather than just a one-off throwaway campaign.
Because it feels more authentic and people want authenticity.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, because we dismiss things that we know of as ads very quickly because we know it is fake on some level, and the level of sort of suspension of disbelief that we have to do, we want to reduce that. So, but not everyone runs ads. Some people not everyone does brand deals. Some people just support themselves off of the creators, like the crowdfunding. Yeah. I assumed before coming to this conference and spending more time talking to people in especially the social video space, that creators on TikTok and on Instagram and on Snapchat and the other places, we're getting a large portion of their revenue from like the people with large audiences from the crowds. But one of the things I think is fascinating, and I would love you to talk about it a little bit, is like how much the only place people are doing that in any kind of scale on a long tail is YouTube with longer form content on YouTube. Everybody else actually makes their money not from these platforms paying them at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think YouTube at the moment have worked with creators in a way that makes it sustainable for them to, post long form content. And I think they are at the moment the kind of like shining star, the North Star of like the monetization model that works and funds creators in a way where they can do that full time. I think other platforms, I think every platform has its space within the ecosystem, and how creators use those platforms are slightly different. I think the creators, again, that do it very well, use each platform for the right reasons to funnel into other ways, to monetize and diversify their revenue streams. I think, and you didn't need to look too far after the kind of like what happened with TikTok in the US, where it's like there is a world where overnight your revenue could be taken away, and we saw that, where I think that forced creators to really look at the bigger picture thing, where it's like we can't rely on one platform, so we have to diversify. So I think that's really interesting actually from a monetization side. It's like, how are creators funneling their content from one platform to another to allow them to monetize? Obviously a lot of them now are looking to build longer form content so they can put on platforms like YouTube. But again, it's like, I think TikTok is a great way to build an audience very quickly, that the creators that can do it well and funnel that audience through to places like TikTok are doing to YouTube, are doing it very well. So it's kind of just looking at each platform for its own right, and how you monetize from each platform, because it's wildly different, and each platform has a great kind of place within the ecosystem.
I mean, it's fascinating that creators looked at the potential cancellation of TikTok in the US, for example, and thinking of using it, because everybody potentially loses their accounts. Everyone potentially, like you could violate a terms of service rule. You could lose your username and password. Like, it's a very precarious place to build a business.
Absolutely. And I think that's also why we're starting to see a big shift of, more traditional mediums, newsletters, podcasts, things like that, where it's you own that audience. It's like no one can take your podcast away. No one can take your newsletter away. Once you've built that audience, that is yours. You own that. And I think we're starting to see a lot more of that, because, ultimately at the end of the day, if you are on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, if you're on, Meta, it's at any point you could violate, one of the T's and C's.
A rule that you didn't know existed.
Exactly. And they can take it away. And we have seen that. And there's no bias towards, the big channels or a small channel. It's, channels have been taken away or not restored, and then overnight you can lose an audience. So we are starting to see a lot more of diversifying your revenue as a creator.
I mean, so much of what we're doing with Divine is trying to reset that relationship and say that you own your identity, you own your content, you own your relationship. We may choose not to host you on the app, in our servers, but it is yours, and trying to reset that thing so that, sometimes it's political speech, but sometimes it's just random stuff. And if we're going to build a future, you need to have some sort of real control and ownership of the space you're doing. So I'm super excited to be able to come to VidCon and talk to people and meet them. I wonder if there's anything you want to wrap it up with in terms of talking to people who are interested in how did the internet get the way it is today?
Yeah, I mean, I will close by just saying I'm super excited. I've been following it from the wings of what you guys are doing at Divine. I know there's a lot of people in our industry that are very excited to see what you guys are doing. So we are excited to have you guys at VidCon speaking about it. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation, especially kind of going into June around what you guys are doing and launching. So we're very excited. I think a lot of creators are excited, and certainly a lot of the industry are excited.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.